Well, welcome everyone to our return and our second edition of Viking Voices. Tonight we had a wonderful turnout for our Q&A last week. We had about 150 live and over 500 views later on, asking some great questions. It helps me build our frequently asked questions document that we have on our website, as well as other information. It also allows us to make some shifts and some adjustments based on the questions that we have in terms of our communication. So I really appreciate you joining me. I look forward to the questions, and what I want to do is if you have questions, you can join us live and ask the questions. They come to me, and I'll read them all so everyone can hear them, and then I'll do my best to answer them. As you know, throughout the summer, we've been working on our reopening school plans and what that looks like, and trying to push that out so everyone knows. And we have two options. Basically, we have our in-person instruction and we have our virtual Vikings. Right now, we have about 800 students and families who've taken advantage of our virtual Vikings. And so that's great that we offered that, because we want to make sure we had enough, that it was a viable option. And it appears like it was with that many people taking that option. So we appreciate that. We start school next week. So I'd like to start with this even before any questions, if that's okay. I kind of would like to start with talking about the first week of school. We put out our original plan, and then I talked to parents, talked to students, talked to teachers, and we all talked about, it would be a good idea if we had some practice and some protocols, but also because the unpredictability of COVID-19 and the impact it might have on the community, we wanted to be ready if we had to go into remote learning at possible, kind of like we did in the spring, but it's going to be more rigorous, and we're going to connect more in the classroom, and I'm sure that'll come up in some of the questions that'll be asked. But because of those types of things, we decided, rather than just starting gung-ho on August 31st with every student, all the teachers, everyone coming in, and the protocols, we decided to do a phase-in approach. And so that's what we're going to do next week. I kind of want to go over that. I hope it's not confusing. You can find on our website, our Facebook pages. I believe our building principals have already reached out to those of you who've enrolled, so you should have already seen this. But I'd still like to go through it just for a second here, if you can bear with me for a second. All right. And here it is. So August 31st, next Monday, we have no school for students, but we do have required parent-teacher student conferences at all our buildings from noon to 8 p.m. We wanted to adjust that so that working parents can make sure that they can make it as well. There's no school for students on August 31st, none. And students, it's really helpful. We put must-attend conferences with parent and guardian. It's really helpful if they do, because that puts some pressure off of you as a parent when your child knows how to log in to those devices that they're going to need, whether it's a virtual Viking or whether they're remote. And it's more this week is more about the in-person instruction. But so that way, if a student is going remote, they'll be ready to know, and the parents, you'll know what the expectations are, and the teachers will walk you through that. So if you haven't signed up for parent-teacher student conferences by next August 31st or September 1st, please contact your buildings tomorrow and get that scheduled. And you'll see, so that's Monday, August 31st, no school for students. We have those parent-teacher student conferences. September 1st, same. Parent-teacher student conferences, again, can't impress much as much as I can about the students needing to be there. Then on Wednesday, September 2nd, this is where we have to pay a little bit of attention, because it's a little bit of a nuance. On Wednesday, we're going to start with the grade levels, the report in-person instruction, kindergarten connections, kindergarten, grade 1, grade 2, and grade 6. We want to get the young kids in there acclimated to the school building, so that's why we went with the younger grades. And then grade 6, that's the first year some of you as parents or some of our students are going to be in the middle school. So we really felt that was important to at least get them acclimated to the school first before the other students were there. At Niles High School, you'll see students with the last name of A through K. It's counselor driven. We'll report for full day of in-person instruction. Northside and Southside students, they're going to report for full day instruction, for in-person instruction on that Wednesday as well. Now, all returning Niles Cedar Lane students will report for a full day in person. So if you attended Niles Cedar Lane last year, you should be there that Wednesday. And teachers, we talked to them today, they're looking forward to seeing you again. Any student who's not listed on this list to attend in-person instruction on that Wednesday, they're required to log into their Google Classroom. And information about logging into your Google Classroom, it will all be provided in your parent-teacher student conferences. That's why it's so important that you get to those, okay? And then on that Thursday, the following grade levels will report. It's going to be all of our students, grade K through 8. Kindergarten connections, kindergarten, first grade, second, third, fourth, fifth, seventh, and eighth grade. All of them are going to be reporting. High school, we're going to switch it. We started with A through K. We're going to go L through Z. Report for full day in-person instruction. North side and south side students will continue to report for full day. All new Niles Cedar Lane students will report. So the day before was returning. Thursday will be all new. Again, students who aren't reporting will need to log into the Google Classroom. And again, all those instruction will be provided next Monday and Tuesday. And then you'll see you're off Friday and off Monday. Friday because of Labor Day break, off Monday because of Labor Day. And then September 8th, that Tuesday, all grade levels at all schools will report for in-person instruction unless you're a virtual Viking. So, and then we keep going. We just keep going. All grade levels report in-person instruction. So I hope that taking a few minutes ahead of time to show what that first week looks like, so everyone's on the same page, understanding that we'll be starting full September 8th. If we run into any hiccups with our protocols or health and safety measures that we've put in place, or for some reason supplies aren't in, and I've not heard that any are not in, but we run into any hiccups, I will communicate that through robocalls, text, email messages, the website, Facebook. We will push that out. I don't expect any problems, but if there are, we want to be safe. And if there are, we may delay and maybe phase in, maybe take a couple more days to phase in. Again, I don't see that happening, but just in case, I just want to make sure you stay tuned and stay communicated with us. So at this point, I'd like to go to any questions that we might have. So if you want to log in and ask questions, we'll take care of those right now. All right, my first question is, when will we hear from the virtual program to pick up devices? Next week, your teacher record will be contacting you, August 31st. They'll be contacting you and say, hey, this is the date that we want to meet. They'll go through an open house orientation on the 1st. Let me check. Yep, September 1st. So August 31st, your teacher records will be contacting you. September 1st will be an open house, and that will be recorded. So if you can't make it at the time of the open house, then you'll be able to watch the recordings. But all that information, just like our in-person, will be coming out Monday. It'll be individualized to you, and they'll tell you when you can come up and pick up your devices. Great question. When will virtual students receive information about our return to school as far as login info and classes? Your counselors have sent some information to some students. I'm not sure all the virtual Viking classes are set up. I know what they tried to do was that you filled out a schedule last spring. The counselors are trying to match those as best as possible. So you should assume that the classes that you signed up for spring have been matched to your virtual Viking classes in the fall. If there's any discrepancies, they'll work to change that as well. But they try to match those classes as well as they could. Again, that information will be coming Monday to you in terms of classes and the next steps for your virtual Viking at the high school level. If my children are doing virtual, they need to attend the conference because the website states that we should not sign up for. That's absolutely right. Thank you for that clarification. No, if you're doing virtual, you do not need to show up for sign up. You do not need to sign up for conferences on that Monday and Tuesday. However, some who've chosen the virtual Vikings chose that because they weren't sure whether all the protocols were going to be in place, or they wanted to see, is it going to be safe? And so for some parents, they do want to see what the schools look like. And at some point, we hope that all the virtual Vikings return to the classroom. And if you plan on returning it at mid-semester, because it is a semester commitment for the virtual Vikings, then what you could do is you could actually go in and look at the classroom and see, hey, this is what it's going to look like when you return. You could meet your teacher. So again, the in-person instruction needs to schedule first. However, if there's openings, feel free to call. If there's openings, I'm sure they will come. They will call you and they will schedule something for you to come and meet with them. But you're not required to go. That's the answer to your question. Thank you for asking that. What is the average class size in elementary schools? I'm concerned as to how they're going to social distance. You're absolutely right. I'm very concerned about that as well. The governor roadmap says that we need to distance them as far as possible. Well, and most schools aren't built to set apart 6 feet distancing. And so when you ask, why are schools different? Why are schools able to not have to do 6 foot distancing when everywhere else you are? Well, I've asked that question as well. And basically what they're talking about is the well-being of the whole child is more than just the impact of COVID-19. That's what the experts will say. That's what they're saying. Our local experts are telling us, CDC, American Pediatric Association will say, if you're within 6 feet, you need to wear a mask. Our students are wearing masks. We're putting some barriers up in some classrooms where the distance is it can't be even 3 feet. But the average class size, to answer your question, is around 21, 22, maybe 23. I did see a class size that's a little bit higher than that, and we're trying to make some adjustments to keep that down there. But again, lower. But again, that's part of the virtual Vikings is helping to reduce some of those class sizes. Are there restrictions on the conferences for next week? Mask. Who should be with us? Your students should be with us for sure. And in terms of restriction, yeah, we're going to practice social distancing, and we do require face coverings during that time. Yes. Is it possible to do school in real life some days and online other days? Not right now. I wish we could have had. In order to do that, we would need almost a year and some professional experts to align our curriculum with the digital content and basically kind of create that digital content that would align with our instruction. There is some mismatch between the two. Our teachers can transition pretty easily when you're moving from the virtual to the in-person. It's a little more difficult going from in-person to virtual. They can do it. It may not be the best because they're not perfectly aligned. And so that's why we would prevent some from going real life some days, or in person on some days, and virtual on other days. It would seem kind of a mismatch. One day I'm learning this, and then 3 days later I'm learning it again in class, and then I'm learning it on virtual. So just the match just isn't there. So I wish it was. That would be great because we could do so much more if it was, but it's just not there. Can you offer insight into what went into planning for the new school year? Absolutely. All right. So in June, the governor designed a roadmap to reopen schools. And on that roadmap task force or team were teachers, administrators, students, health professionals, directors of transportation, director of human resources, director of operations and maintenance. There were legislators. Again, there are all types of people that put together and said, this is what it takes to safely reopen school. So you put out the template. So, and it required all these different things. You have to do these things. It's required to wear face masks 6th through 12th grade. It's required that you have these supplies. It's required that you clean desk. It's required that you cohort students as much as possible. All these different requirements, transportation, hallways, all those type of things. We were able to meet 100% of those requirements. Since then, the state superintendent in July in a meeting told all of us, if you meet those recommendations, you must offer in-person instruction unless your local health department says it's not safe. You've seen all across the nation and in some instances in Michigan where school districts have opened in hotspots. That doesn't make any sense. They open in hotspots and they're not taking the safety and health measures and using PPE like we are. So it just doesn't make sense. I can see why those exploded like they did. We're meeting those recommendations. We're also meeting many, nearly all of the strongly recommended recommendations in that roadmap, as well as many other recommendations. So we're really trying to really follow everything in the roadmap as much as possible. Then just recently, we had our House and Senate and governor reach a bargain, basically, and say an agreement, basically saying you must offer in-person instruction. And so throughout the whole time, there was also discussions back in June when we were planning for maybe a hybrid approach or remote learning, and administrators and teachers and school improvement teams and parents got together and actually built plans for many other options than just in-person and virtual. But with the direction from the governor, the direction from the state superintendent, and we pretty much knew the House and the Senate and the governor were going to get together on this. We were in person was our only option. Was not our only option. Was an option we had to deliver, which meant virtual was our other option. And so that's why what we want to do with our virtual programming is provide some local support. So we have a local teacher of record, certified, hired by Niles Community Schools, as well as a mentor to support our virtual Vikings. So all of that played into designing the plan. And then once we had the plan designed, we ran that through, again, teachers, students, and groups and parents. And that's where the phasing idea came in. You say you have all these, you say you can meet all these recommendations, you say that you've got them all in place. Well, that's in a plan is one thing, but let's put it in practice and see how it goes. So that's how the phase in and start of the school year changed. So that's in a nutshell. There's a lot more that went into it, but in a nutshell, that's how we got to where we are in terms of our planning. How is it decided if the kids will eat lunches in the classroom? How is it decided if the kids will eat lunches in the classroom or cafeteria? Well, one of the requirements is that we don't mix kids from different classes. So that's one thing that we're going to try to avoid as much as possible. So in the elementary and the middle school, I think for the most part, the middle school, they will be eating lunch in the classroom. And so that's going to make some changes in how we clean and where students are eating breakfast and lunch. But that was one of the recommendations, that you cohort students, keep them together. Somebody earlier asked about social distancing. Basically what they're saying is there's three things. You have face coverings, you have social distancing, and you have cohort. And if you work with those three things, you can help prevent the spread of this disease. And so where you may not get social distancing, the 6 feet apart, maybe only 3 feet, and you wear a mask, that's good. And then if you cohort, that's even better. And so that's why we're trying to do a combination of those three things if we can. And if we're short on social distancing, we try to improve our cohorting or our face mask requirements. So that's why the cohorting piece is one of the reasons why students are eating in the classrooms, because they can take their face masks off during that time. When will we hear about bus stop information? That should be coming out very soon. If you haven't heard it, I'm surprised some haven't heard it about today. I'm actually going to write down, check on that, because that's something you should have found out very soon. And if not, I know the buses were out last week and they were running their routes. So I will check into the bus stop information. And if you don't hear about bus stop information by tomorrow afternoon, please call my office. Please call my office and I will get your name and I'll check into why you have not received your bus stop information. Are classrooms being combined to make bigger rooms? No, we're not. No, we're not combining classrooms. I'm not sure where we would have this opportunity to combine classrooms. I don't know we have any removable walls. I know at our new tech we have double space. I'm not sure where we have any space that we would actually be able to move a wall that we could make classrooms bigger. So no, we don't have any situations that I'm aware of that we're planning on making rooms any bigger. How can I get my PowerSchool information if I forget it? Oh, good question. That information actually can be found on our website. But again, if you call your building principal, they will get your information. Call the secretary. They can help you get your PowerSchool information. And I'm glad you asked that question, because it's very important that parents and guardians keep that information, your contact information, up to date, because there is a lot of information coming at you. I understand that, and I apologize for that, but there is a lot. And so it is very important that you do keep your contact information up. So call your building. Tell them that you can't get your PowerSchool information, or you forgot it, your password doesn't work, and they will hook you with the right person. And again, at any time, anything I'm asking you to do, if you're calling your building or you're calling somebody else, if you don't get a hold of that person, please call me and I'll help you get in contact with the people you need to. For middle school virtual Vikings who did not sign up for classes last spring, how do we get information? For middle school Vikings, okay, that should come out again August 31st with your teacher of record of who your class. That's a good question, because I know how the high school did it. I did not ask Mr. Winkler or Mr. Voda how the middle school scheduling signed up for this. So that's something I'm going to have to look up, and I will make sure that all of our middle school virtual Vikings understand how that works. So let me write that question down too. Thank you very much for that question. Will there be temperatures taken? No, as a matter of fact, we were told by Berrien County Health Department and other organizations not to take temperatures. I don't really know that I understand completely, because I thought that was a direction early on that, we would zap people in the forehead before they came into school, but we were told not to do it. It would create other problems. The accuracy of it isn't that great. And so the other problems that you're creating, we're not health officials. We're not experts in understanding, when a temperature is right or wrong. My understanding is that the way we would take a temperature as students would walk in would be the forehead scanners, which we've been doing with our sports team and been successful. But when you start getting into cooler months, my understanding is that wearing hats, being in a hot car, all that can change the temperature. And so the readings really, really don't they don't give you an accurate measure of what we're looking for. And so there's problems with it. Plus, students would have to be congregated. They gave us a lot of reasons. So no, temperatures will not be taken for reasons that we were told by the health officials. How are the children doing interactions with other children socializing with the 6 foot distance? Yeah, that's one of the things. Learning is going to look different. Our new reality is absolutely different than what it was in the past. I mean, we love that here in Niles Community Schools. I mean, we've got project-based learning. We've got programs that are built on socializing and working together in groups. A lot of that's going to have to be done virtually. It's going to have to be done virtually as much as possible. There will be interactions. We have bought barriers that we can cross to separate students if they can't be again 6 feet and they're wearing their mask, to separate students. But we still want to encourage that socializations. We're still going to encourage social emotional learning this year. It's a drive that we have. It's a curriculum that we're doing K-12. And so those are all the pieces. So we'll be talking a lot about socialization. We'll be talking about collaboration, but students will still get the opportunity to do that. We're still going to have recess. They're kind of zoning the recess so we can kind of cohort like I talked about, but we definitely think it's important to keep that socialization interactions. But there are going to be times it's going to look different. It's not going to be as much as we'd like. It's not as much as students may need sometimes, but we will be working through that. Is there a certain time you have to do virtual school during the day? There is not. Unlike when we go into remote learning, so with in-person instruction, if we close schools, there will be a schedule that students will have to follow. For virtual, it's pretty flexible. You're on your own. There are check-ins to make sure that you're keeping up. Now, although it's flexible, if you are a student athlete at the high school, you need to be cautious because there's some eligibility issues that you're going to make sure that you can address. You have to keep up. You have to, in order to be eligible, and I'm not sure what that is, you have to connect with athletic director Jeff Upton. I think that's one of my FAQs because somebody asked. That's a really good question. As a student athlete, you got a little more. You have a little less leeway in how you can progress, but in virtual Vikings, it's very flexible. The first month or so, kids gets cold. Is there going to be testing mandatory for every slight fever, running nose, or coughing? And if so, how is that going to be implemented? Great question. No, there's not. And we're very concerned about when cold and flu season comes and the symptoms are on there. And as a matter of fact, one of the things that we do ask parents that they do in the morning is, families are encouraged, part of the roadmap and part of all the guidance is that families are encouraged to monitor children for COVID-19 symptoms before they send them to school. A temperature of 100.4 or greater, signs of a fever, chills or sweating, coughing or shortness of breath, diarrhea, vomiting or abdominal pain, or severe headache, they're asked to keep the student at home, their child at home. Now, all this will be shared out with parents. It has been shared out in letter form. It's all on our website, so parents are aware of this. But we also have a nice little infographic that'll go home. Matter of fact, I sent a parent letter home yesterday that should have an infographic on it. If you're on right now and you didn't receive that parent letter, again, please call your building and get your contact information up to date, or let's find out why you didn't get that. But to be more specific, this is one of the reasons why right now, again, is a good time to start school, because the cold and flu season is going to exacerbate the problem of those symptoms. And people aren't really going to be sure, is this a cold, is it a flu, or is it actually COVID? And so that is going to create a problem. And so at that point, right now is a great time to start school, make these interactions, get our foot in the door, make the connections with the teacher, make the connections with the students, build our remote programming in case we ever have to do that. And so that's why school is important to start right now. But you're right, there will be a lot of confusion when cold and flu season starts. We're going to, again, look to our health department experts to help us through that and figure that out. Will the district be lenient with attendance policy? Yes, thank you for asking that. Yes, we have to. We have to be a lenient. As a matter of fact, we had a lot of incentives at Howard Ellis. They had what was that called? The potato head, Mr. Potato, the golden potato head. At the high school, they had attendance incentives. We are not doing any incentive program for attendance. However, attendance will be required, whether you're in a virtual Viking or whether we're in a remote or whether in person. So attendance will be important and it will be an expectation, and you will fall behind if you don't attend. But in terms of getting harmed by attendance because you're sick or quarantined or someone in your family is sick or you're isolated, those will not happen. You will not be penalized, and yes, we will be lenient with the attendance policies. Rephrase question. Are classes with low numbers being combined, which result? Oh, I'm sorry. I understand. The question is, are classes with low numbers being combined, which results in larger amounts of students in the grade level? That has happened in a couple classes, but again, we're trying to stay with the average of 21, 22, and 23 is what we're looking for. If a student or teacher catches COVID, what happens to the class? Yep, great question. I don't have an answer for that. When a student is symptomatic versus when we know a student or staff or a member of the family is COVID positive, we have to immediately contact Marion County Health Department. We tell them, here's the situation. They're symptomatic. They've been exposed to somebody, or there's a lot of questions that are going to be asked, and Marion County will ask the parent, ask the student about those questions. We'll ask some of those questions, and then Marion County Health Department will tell us this is how long a student needs to stay out, and this is how long they need to be quarantined. They need to be isolated, and if isolated, we need to figure out another way to get them home rather than on general transportation. So if it's one student in the class and we cohorted and the student has only been in the corner around 3 or 4 other kids, the whole class may still attend school the following day. That's a scenario that actually has played out, and they've shared that scenario. And the reason is because you have to be within 6 feet for more than 15 minutes and exposure. That's what they consider exposure. So if somebody's displaying symptoms and you've been within 6 feet for more than 15 minutes, that's when a quarantine situation would step in, according to Marion County Health Department. If we have started the school year in person, but Governor Whitmer shifts back to phase 3, what happens? Great question. Yes, right now we're in phase 4. Hope we get to phase 5. Our local numbers are looking pretty good. State of Michigan numbers have kind of fluctuated. But if we go into phase 3, that means there's community spread. And we're being told by either at the state level or Marion County Health Department saying you got to go to phase 3. In phase 3, all in-person instruction has to stop. Buildings are closed to students. Teachers can still come in and do their lessons online, so they have reliable internet and resources. But that's when we'll go into remote learning, very similar to like we did in the spring, but better and more rigorous, because teachers in and day out now will be integrating the Google Classroom platform in their instruction and delivery of information, but also video and resources. And so when a student will be remote, they'll still be able to use that Google Classroom to interact. And so that's what we're doing. And teachers have got a lot of professional development on Google Classroom. For the younger kids, we also added another piece called Clever. Many of you parents probably remember that if you signed into any of our intervention programs or our everyday math program, or our social studies program, or our English, there's a lot of usernames and passwords. And I have too many of them right now as an adult. I don't need that many. And so the kids, it's hard for them to remember. So with Clever, what we did is it's a single sign-on. So your child, especially elementary child, would sign on just one time, and then it accessed all those different programs without having to put in individual passwords and usernames into each one of those. In fact, we're trying to work on where we have a scanning code. So a young child, all they would have to do is just scan a barcode onto their computer, and Clever would read that and then open up all the programs so the child can work a little bit more independently. So those are some small things that we've done, but the biggest thing will be that instruction through Google Classroom. That'll be done on a daily basis, so students will be used to it. So when we do go remote, we won't skip a beat and we'll keep learning forward. But that's what will happen if we go to phase 3. In-person instruction will have to stop. It's required to stop. At our high school students still being allowed to leave on their lunch break? Yes, they are. Part of that goes to the social distancing piece, so that we can socially distance our cafeteria. Now, again, we're going to work through that. One of the protocols about students being able to leave, if that starts creating a risk or a safety issue or a health issue, that may be shut down. But we have great kids. I believe in them. They will be safe. So right now, yes, lunches will be open until we have to make a change for that. Yes. Will Victor be visiting the building with social distancing? Okay. Well, I would love to do that, and actually I thought about that. I love bringing Victor around because I love everybody being excited about being a Viking here in Niles. I take Victor around, the kids love him, they give him hugs, and I was thinking about the same thing. I don't really want to show Victor around and put a barrier in between them. So I'm still trying to figure out, how do I bring Victor around? How do I bring Victor pride? Because I really want to do that. But we also need to use Victor as an example of social distancing. So I appreciate the question, because that makes me think about that in a different light. How can I use Victor to show what social distancing looked like? Because a lot of students do look up to him, and that's a great question. Again, the classroom environment is going to look different. I can't wait till we get back to normalcy. Do I need to call the school? Do I need to call the school to sign up to get Chromebooks? And what if I need hotspot for my kids due to living in the country? Sorry. Yep. If you need a Chromebook and you need a hotspot, those will be provided if you signed up for Virtual Vikings. That information, again, will come out through your teacher record August 31st. They'll share that information. They'll share how do you sign up? How do you get one of those? And also, if you need a hotspot, how will you get that hotspot? August 31st, a lot of information, as well as that open house on September 1st. Okay, like I said, I'm going to look into the bus information that was shared with me. I've also suggested that you call your buildings to answer some of your questions. If you don't get to the people that you need to or that you think you need to, please call my office. If I can't answer the question, I can find the person who can answer your question. The key dates, though, are going to be next Monday and Tuesday, August 31st, September 1st. A lot of information about what's coming in the next, about devices, about Chromebooks, what remote learning will look like, what school will look like, the protocols. That's all going to come to light in the next couple days. But if you want to read about it, it's all on our website. A lot of the information is on a Facebook page. I will continue to communicate through social media, the website and Facebook page. Based on this and some questions who aren't even answered, they've been collected, and I will put together an FAQ. And some of the information that goes down to the building level, I'll make sure that our administrators know that these are questions that parents and students, and so if teachers, if you're on, that they have that may need to be communicated through. So I really appreciate you tuning in. I really appreciate it. I'm trying to get the communication. I'm trying to get the information out because I want all parents, all guardians to be able to make an informed decision, whether it's in person or whether it's virtual. I just want to make sure that you have the information so that you can make the best decision for you and for your family. And I hope our options can help do that. So with that ends our second edition of our Q&A, and we might have another one after school starts, because after school starts, there might be some additional questions. I'm open to doing that. Again, I'm all about trying to communicate, get you the information that you can make the appropriate decision for your family. So once again, thank you for joining me, and good night. Go Vikes.